So in my view, Cather's career has two turns. First, she has to turn away from America and its bourgeois life, and in this she appears something akin to Hemingway or F. Scott Fitzgerald. She appears to be skeptical or alienated, though I would say that hers is a different kind, because she always grasped the human possibilities. Those others thought there was nothingness beyond America, while she worried that America clouded over the deepest human questions. Her second turn was, in effect, toward closer-knit communities of meaning, as providing the conditions for human thriving. The church provides the shadows or protective mist within which most people can attain a reasonable happiness, though not all people. When there is a tight-knit community, usually a community of believers, the novels end well, such as Shadows on the Rock, or Death Comes for the Archbishop, or The Professor's House, kind of. When there isn't, the novel ends in tragedy, such as in Lucy Gayheart. Her novels resemble the orthodox reaction to World War I, such as T.S. Eliot or C.S. Lewis or Evelyn Waugh, and in a different way they resemble William Faulkner. So to put a fine point on it, there are two turns. Her first turn is away from America, and her second turn is toward communities informed by common faith that are not altogether modern. What I would like to do in the remainder of my time is explore these turns by looking at her two turns. Later in her life, Cather wrote a wonderful and revealing book of essays called Not Under 40. She claimed the book that could not be understood by someone under 40 years old, which meant at this point someone born without active remembrance of the world before World War I. In her short prefatory note at the beginning of Not Under 40, she says the following: "The title of this book is meant to be arresting only in the literal sense, like the signs up for motorists, road under repair. It means that this book will have little interest for people under 40 years of age. The world broke apart, the world broke in two in 1922 or thereabouts, and the persons and prejudices recalled in these sketches slid back into yesterday's 7,000 years. It is for the backward, and by one of their number, that these sketches were written. The world came apart in 1922, the year she wrote one of ours." This statement from Cather reminds us rightly of Virginia Woolf's statement, on or about December 1910, "Human character changed." Woolf's statement was written in a 1923 novel. Both these perceptive authors noticed something different. It was a decline of what was, and a rise of something else. Woolf did not find what was coming altogether bad. Cather of 1922 and beyond worried immensely about how the world was coming apart. I think we can understand Cather's turns by understanding how the world was united for Cather and what the broken world looked like. What was united in the previous world was artistic greatness, or human greatness, and common life in whatever form. Those who were backward appreciated the unique contributions of great human beings. In all of Cather's early novels, we find common folks going about their own concerns, but the best of these common folks appreciate artistic greatness, the beauty of dedication to family, and the importance of founding political orders. Not everyone appreciates these acts of human greatness, to be sure, but enough human beings do so that the effects of great accomplishments lift all cities. Her most famous novel in this respect is My Antonia, an early novel. The key character in My Antonia is Jim Burton, the narrator. Jim knew Antonia when she was a young girl and when she was a teenager, but then went off to college and received a liberal education, an education around the question of political philosophy. How shall I live? Before Jim's education, Jim was an ordinary American, concerned about the practical. His education liberates Jim from America's, quote, stifling mode of existence, end quote, that was like living under a tyranny. Jim's education provides the necessary perspective to see Antonia's maternal destiny as something beautiful, to endow her ordinary life with extraordinary meaning. Antonia is toothless, raggedy, and tired at the end of the novel. But Jim's education allows him to range over all human experience to create an unforgettable portrait of beauty and motherhood. Cather's faith in art and liberal education could hardly be more pronounced in this novel. Jim compares himself to Virgil, aspiring to be the first to bring the muse to my own country. Artists, informed by liberal education, can show the beauty in the everyday, even if all cannot see it. Cather's crisis, that which led to her first turn, shows that this old world split in two. Artists and the liberally educated would no longer suffice to knit the world together. These middle novels are shaped by a battle between what we could call ugly Americans on the one hand and lovers of beauty or aspirers on the other hand. These novels have genuine villains. A Lost Lady has Ivy Peters, and one of ours has Bayless Wheeler. These are the kind of men who, when they see a beautiful pond on their property, they figure out how to drain it so they can maximize the number of acres in crops. They cut down cottonwood trees and replace them with a fence. In Ivy's case, they like beautiful women for sex and trinkets because they help secure beautiful women. Bayless sees the most beautiful old house in town in one of ours and wants to pull down that old trap and put up something modern. Progress means forgetting about yesterday's 7,000 years. It takes for granted that the way to live is to get rid of the old and usher in the new. It is in this sense that the novel's significance as a novel of World War I comes to bear. World War I is a vehicle for progress. It smashes all the beautiful old things. Claude Wheeler, Bayless's searching brother, is the protagonist of one of ours. He searches for something beyond Bayless's world of utility and progress. But the world of Bayless infects all the institutions that might provide a way out. It has infected the church, which emphasizes comfort over struggles with sin and grace. It infects institutions of liberal learning. Claude matriculates in programs which promise, as Claude relates, to open his eyes to something vital, which had to do with events and ideas. Claude makes friends with generous, educated spirits, the Ehrlichs, Germans, of course, while at college. Claude's career as a student does not lead him where it led Jim Burton, however, to an appreciation of the high things in common life. Instead, his father needs him back on the farm, so he leaves the university. The Ehrlichs seem destined for a bourgeois life as well, as they buy a warehouse. Claude tries marriage, but that makes matters worse for Claude. He marries Enid Royce, one of the only other people around who does not fit well in with the order of Bayless. She is devout, self-sacrificing, has a vision of the good mingled with a life of piety. Enid, however, so denies the goodness of the world that she does not seek to fathom it or participate in it. In one of the most memorable scenes in Cather's corpus, for Cather's nerds such as I, Enid and Claude are taking a train on their wedding night, and Enid turns down Claude's generous offer to consummate the marriage. Not a good time for a headache. She serves something greater than herself, thus her attractiveness for Claude. But it ends up being something not of this world, which frustrates Claude. Finally, Claude finds meaning in war. He is not the only soldier to go to Europe and feel a liberation, something akin to the liberal education afforded to Jim Burton. Claude tells his war comrade David Gerhardt, a violinist, that he never knew that there was anything worth living for till this war came on. Claude is attracted to the sense of being comrades. What is more, the war teaches Claude that there were a great many people left who cared about something different from Baylis, and that men could still die for an idea and would burn all they had made to keep their dream alive. The war taught that the future was safe. The careful planners would never be able to put it into a straitjacket. Cunning and prudence would never have it to themselves. In fact, in one of the most striking passages in the book, Claude surveys the no man's land, strewn with the dead and dying, and filled with painful groans of the wounded, and thinks, quote, "No battlefield or shattered country was as ugly as their world would be if men like his brother Baylis controlled it altogether." Ouch. Now, I am not saying that Claude's view is Cather's view. There is much in one of ours to indicate that Cather thinks Claude's resolution of the problem is inadequate. Consider only one passage. As I said just before, Claude's bosom buddy in the war was David Gerhardt. Claude told David that he never knew there was anything worth living for till this war came on. David's response is devastating. He answers, "You'll admit it's a costly way of providing adventure to the young." Ouch, again. Claude answers, "Maybe so. All the same." That's it. This indicates, in my view, that Cather understood that Claude's resolution of the problem of meaning was utterly incoherent. War is a means, not an end. One fights for the purposes of establishing peace, not for the purpose of finding meaning. It can come as no surprise. In fact, I would say that it is a sign of Cather's adherence to the moral order that Claude is killed near the novel's denouement. Cather suggests that Claude was better off dead, indeed. Claude's mother gets the novel's last arresting words, in a manner of speaking. One by one, the heroes of that war leave prematurely from the world they have come back to. Airmen whose deeds were tales of wonder, officers whose names make the blood of youth beat faster, survivors of incredible danger, one by one they quietly die by their own hand. Some do it in obscure lodging houses, some in their office where they seem to be carrying on business like other men. When Claude's mother hears of these things, she shudders and presses her hands tight over her breast, as if she had him there. She feels as if God had saved him from some horrible suffering, some horrible end. Death is better than Baylis's ugly world. Our world. This is the portrait of American life in Cather's middle phase, which I say is confined to her one of ours and her lost lady. It is as alienated from American life as anything the Lost Generation authors ever wrote. As depressing, if you want to think of it like that. Her conclusion seems to be that the good life cannot be lived in America any longer, though there are some ambiguities or what might have beens in this conclusion that I am skipping over. The next video will concern Cather's second turn.